Hey, Peter.
Yes.
What are you doing here?
Hey, guitar friends. Today we're adventuring to the Rocky Mountain Archtop Festival to interview Peter Henriksen. Peter's the top doggie at Henriksen Amps and the Kris Kringle of Colorado. The Archtop Fest is a guitar wonderland. It's really worth the trip. Fine guitars, great music, and lots of good people. I even got to see the world-famous blue guitar collection. You should go sometime, but first, enjoy this interview with Peter.
I am here at the hotel hosting the Rocky Mountain Archtop Festival.
Hell yeah.
And that was an idea that wasn't really my idea. It has snowballed from my original idea. I was chatting with Ken Parker about the Woodstock show, and he said that that was all his fault because he just wanted to get together with a few people, like in the back of a wine bar, and invite some people to come, try out his archtop. And I thought, well, we really need something like that in Denver. So I kind of put it out there, like, hey, does anyone want to come to Denver and do a little show? I thought we'd do it at my shop. We had, a couple thousand square feet of, space. We could put up a few tables. And I just put that out there on Facebook to see if anybody wanted to come. So I wake up the next day and it's just blown up. Everyone's like, Archtops only guitar show? Yeah, I want to be there. I want to be there. I want to be there. I didn't know. Yeah. So it snowballed into this big thing, relatively big for archtop guitars. And the first show was in 2019, and it went off better than I could have possibly imagined. And so I'm like, all right, well, I guess we have to do this again. And then 2020 canceled everything, of course. So here we are at the second one for 2022. So that's why I'm here.
I understand.
Yeah.
So you're the top doggie at Henriksen Amplifiers. Mm-hmm. What is the Henriksen amplifier philosophy, and how did that come about?
If I need to distill it down into one phrase, I'd say our philosophy is you just louder. We just make you louder. It's a solid state amplifier. It's designed just to recreate, the signal that the guitar is sending it, and not color it. And in a very small portable package, I'd say. Yeah. So that's what we do.
Is that a niche market, do you think, or is it growing?
It is because of where we started out doing just jazz guitar amplifiers. Our original product was called the Jazz Amp, and we had two of them, a 10-inch and a 12-inch, and that was it. And so Polytone had recently gone under, and there wasn't anybody building anything that sounded great for jazz guitar, so that was our tiny little niche. We came out with this 2-channel smaller version that we called the Bud. We named it after my dad's name was Bud.
Right.
So it sounded so good with flat top acoustic guitars that we said, all right, well, let's see what we can do with a 2-channel, takes microphones, and after a ton of tweaking, we came out with this thing that is really a perfect gigging singer-songwriter solution because it weighs 13 pounds, it's 9 by 9 by 9. If I were more prepared for this interview, I would have one here that you could look at.
We're here all week.
But it sounds just as good with voice as it does with electric guitar, and as good as it sounds with acoustic guitar. So it really is, not that Swiss Army knives are good for anything, but for lack of a better term, it's a Swiss Army knife guitar amplifier.
Yeah.
And so we've since branched out from just jazz guitar, and the last 4 or 5 years we've been selling a lot to multi-instrumentalists. We have a lot of violin customers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the amps work great with DPA mics or something of a similar quality, and so a lot of cellists, a lot of violinists who, some of them it's their first amplifier, but their gigs are evolving now where it's a lot of pop-up outdoor kind of gigs, and
they need the volume.
Yeah, and they need the volume because I think it's not really my universe, so I don't really know, but I'm starting to suspect that the bluegrass arena is starting to experience what jazz did 30, 40 years ago, where acoustic's just not loud enough anymore. The gigs require sound reinforcement, and so if you're going to do a pop-up gig that doesn't have sound, doesn't have a front of house engineer or anything, you just need stage volume, these little amplifiers are great.
They just get it done. How did, I mean, I think there's a family history, a family story, and a technical story here. How did this company come about?
So my dad retired. He was our business was always in electronics manufacturing. We made telecom equipment as I was growing up as a kid. He retired, started playing music more, and he decided he was going to, play guitar instead of piano and just really focus on it. And so he started searching for the best guitar he could find. Found the Roger Sadowski Jim Hall. Jim Hall was my dad's guitar hero, and he wanted that sound. He loved Jim Hall, and Bill Evans were like his musical headspace. And we're recording.
Oh yeah.
Roger Sadowski.
Yeah. Hey, I'm John.
Hi, John.
Yeah. I'll talk to you soon. Come on in.
So he gets this guitar, can't get it to sound great electronically because all of the amplifiers are just not. There wasn't anything out there for that sound. Your typical scooped tube amp doesn't have that full spectrum piano-like kind of response, and so he just gave up and decided he was going to make his own amplifier. He's like, screw it, I know how to do this. Built one. His guitar, the guy he was taking lessons from, just loved it. Said, wow, this is the sound. So, all right. We built 10 of them as prototypes, sent them around, sent one to Jim Hall. Jim Hall played it, dug it. We're like, all right, it's not just us, we're onto something here. So, but everyone who plugs in one of Roger's guitars is like, wow, this is amazing. I'm like, I know, because this amplifier was literally designed around the Sadowski Jim Hall. Like, that was the benchmark. When that guitar sounded great through the amplifier, that's when my dad was like, yep, this is perfect.
We're good.
Yeah. I was a software engineer at the time.
Yeah.
I was getting burnt out on the cubicle life, and so building guitar amps with my old man sounded like a pretty, fun operation. And knowing that he had spent his whole career running an electronics manufacturing business, some of which rubbed off on me. I didn't mow lawns. I stripped wires and built harnesses and tested circuit boards. Those were my summer jobs.
Yeah,
so.
That was your exposure early on. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So that's how we got started. And unfortunately, he was diagnosed with cancer in 2008, and he passed away in 2009. So he only got to do this for a couple of years. And but it was like the best 2 years of his life. He got to meet all his guitar heroes, got to meet all of the luthiers, some of who are here, and just he really felt at home with jazz guitar players. It was a wonderful experience for him. And so I've done my best to continue it on, and now in the last 5 years we've kind of grown and evolved. And,
you're a bigger juggernaut of company now.
Yeah, knock on wood.
Yeah. So you didn't plan on doing this when you were a kid? I mean, you said you were a sophomore.
I wanted to be a pancake chef at Village Inn.
Oh, okay.
That was I'm not kidding. I would tell it when I was like 5, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a pancake chef at Village Inn. That was my, and everyone would be like, well, that's a very achievable life goal. It's not astronaut. No, I've always been pretty entrepreneurial minded, and because I grew up that way. It was my dad's influence, and I enjoyed software. It was the 90s. It was exciting. Everything was kind of nuts, but this allows me to be a part of music as a business and still be a terrible musician.
Yeah.
So that it checks all the boxes for me.
Yeah. I had a similar experience when I started doing all this stuff with cameras and microphones. I thought, I'm not going to make it as a player, but I have an awful lot of misplaced love for music and the instrument. Yes. What am I going to do with myself here?
Yeah, I am support crew. That's me.
Yeah.
That's how I see myself in the greater musical universe. Is just I'm on the support crew.
Yeah. So I mean, I think your product, you really fill a void that really nobody else does.
No one's dumb enough to also do this.
So in your flagship product, I mean, you have a handful. What's the one that you think perfectly embodies
the Bud?
Bud. Yeah.
That's why we didn't really come up with that was a working title, and we couldn't find a name, and just like, you know what, that stuck. We'll just call it the Bud.
It's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, and that really put us on the map beyond. uber niche jazz guitar stuff.
Yeah.
And that we did our first. I did a couple NAMM shows with my dad, 2007 and 2008, and then my next one wasn't until 2015 when we had, the Bud.
Yeah.
And that's when we just met everybody, and things just really lifted off. It was a great show for us.
I mean, a ton of influential players play these amps, and everyone looks in the magazines that they're heroes and everything. I played one not too long ago. A good friend loaned it to me.
Oh yeah.
And I thought, holy shit, this thing. I mean, of course, all the the pros are playing it, but I got it in my hands, and I thought, this little box is amazing.
It's incredible what it does. The box. You want to know the story behind the development of the Bud?
Tell me.
I moved the shop for like the 8th time, after my dad passed away, and it was a much smaller shop, so I was trying to consolidate stuff, and there's just this big cardboard box full of his stuff, and I'm like, all right, it's been enough years, it wasn't sad for me. I'm like, I just have to go through this stuff and shred stuff that needs to be shredded, whatever. And I pull out this plain wooden box that has a 6-inch speaker in it and nothing else. I think there was a microphone thread mount on the bottom or something, and it's like, oh, that's weird. So I set it on the table next to this package of circuit boards that we had just gotten that went in our 2-channel head that we were building at the time. And the footprint of the 6-inch speaker and the power board for the head were like the same size. And I'm like, well, maybe that's coincidence, or was my dad working on some kind of little powered cabinet? I have no idea. But it was a slow day. I'm like, wonder how small of an amplifier I can build. So I grabbed one of our old chassis and just hacked it apart and built this tiny little input. I think there's only 4 knobs on it. I had to cut the last band of the EQ off for it to fit in the box, and the handle's like a little drawer pull from Home Depot. I hacked it together and turned it on. It made a sound. It wasn't great, but I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's the smallest thing I can build. And I just set it on my desk, and this was still in the earlier stages of social media, so I snap a picture of it next to a beer bottle. I'm like, hey, look, this, we made a tiny amp. The response was everyone was like, wow, that's tiny. Can I gig with that? And that was sort of the thing. You couldn't. The prototype was not giggable. And a month or so goes by, and I see that Eminence released a 6.5-inch version of the Beta, which is what we use in the other amplifiers. And the one that was in there was an Alpha, and ordered one, threw it in there, tried it out. I'm like, oh, okay, well, now this thing kind of came alive. My friend Sean McGowan takes it on I think he took it to the Swananoa gathering that he teaches at every year. Comes back, he's like, this thing worked great, sounded great. Well, okay. So then we sort of just started, I'm like, okay, maybe this has some steam. And that's kind of how that thing developed. And we took it to that NAMM show in 2015, and it just exploded.
Boom.
Yeah.
I noticed you do a lot of, validation with players. Don't you think, like, you say, here, play it for a while, tell me what works, what doesn't work. Is that like it sounds like your dad had a vision and you started, but are you getting input from other folks at this point, or who are you asking for advice in this world? Or because not a whole lot of people do this.
No, my mentors in this business are not amplifier builders. They're Roger Sadowski and Howard Paul of Benedetto. They were friends with my dad, and they've been really essential on my journey. It's good to have mentors. You can't be a small business without mentors, because everyone has made the same mistakes that you're still going to make them, but everyone's been there before.
They can just tell you while it's happening, this is the mistake you're making.
But that never works. Nobody listens to that stuff, but they're there to tell you, see, I told you. Here's how you pick up the pieces.
Yeah.
It's just been amazing I have a lot of people that I talk to and ask advice, but those two in particular are really family for me, you know.
Yeah. Good, safe.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah. I know that Henriksen sponsors a lot of things either in or adjacent to the jazz guitar community. The most notable being this Rocky Mountain Archtop Festival that we're at. How many? And this is the second one.
This is the second one ever. Okay.
And for the people who don't know, which I don't know, who wouldn't know? What is this festival setting out to do?
Our goal again, I didn't intend for this to happen, but clearly there was a need for it. And so I feel like my dad's mission was, and my mission is, the same as these luthiers who are building these amazing guitars, just getting people to play more archtop guitars. There's something about them that players gravitate to, they fall in love with. The builders, obviously, I mean, it's the act of carving something out of a solid piece of wood, and there's so much work that goes into them. We just want to have an event that gets people, number one, exposure to the smaller luthiers. You know, everybody knows who Gibson is, everybody knows who Guild is, everybody knows, you know, Ibanez. Those are guitars you can go pick up at any store. Some of these people only make 1 or 2 guitars a year, and they are extremely fine instruments, and they need to be played to be appreciated. And these smaller archtop luthiers kind of get lost in the sea of flat top builders and larger companies, and there really hasn't been a showcase for their talents. So that's what I'm trying to do is, you know, obviously it's good marketing for Henriksen amplifiers, and it's way better than attending a NAMM show.
Yeah.
but what we're really trying to do is just expand the visibility and accessibility of fine archtop guitars.
Yeah. But there's a whole lot of other stuff going on. I mean, there's talks about how to build. Yeah. There's what else? The classrooms I noticed was on the schedule.
Yeah, you know, so one thing, I modeled this show after the LeConner guitar show, which I'm sure was modeled after other guitar shows. And I guess this all goes back to the Healdsburg guitar show, which I actually never had a chance to attend before they quit doing it. But each luthier, we give them a guitar demo, like mini concert, that spills out into Old Town Arvada, where there's coffee shops and bars and stuff like that that become little music venues for the day. So by hosting this guitar show, we end up spilling a bunch of music just out, and it creates the context required to appreciate these guitars, that there's music constantly going on by some of the best players in the world. I mean, the guys are showing up here, and the women are just like mind-blowingly amazing. You're not going to believe what you hear this weekend.
Yeah, I've been through.
It's already been nuts, and it's only Thursday. We're not even started yet.
Officially happening yet. Yeah. And I know this year there's a big focus on 7-string instruments. How did all that come together?
Well, I was looking over our list of attendees, and there's like 5 7-string players showing up and a couple 7-string builders. So I'm like, why not have a panel discussion on 7-string? Because again, we're trying to expose people to new things, and a lot of people look at like fan frets the same way. They're like, oh, I'm afraid of that, and we play one, it's nothing,
disappears in the hands.
So what we wanted to do is create a panel of the players and the builders of 7-string to talk about, hey, I called the panel, these go to 7.
Yeah.
So like, why need 7-string? And I thought it would be important for people who are fingerstyle players or thinking about getting into that to see someone explain why you might want to think about a 7-string guitar.
Yeah, I'm really looking for. I love the 7-string guitar. I was an early adopter.
I've never played one.
They're a little overwhelming in certain ways, but they do open up possibilities. But you really have to see them in action to understand what they're all about.
Exactly.
And that's sort of a high bar to get over. Like, you don't just call up Benedetto Guitars and say, could you send me one of those super fancy 7-string guitars? I'm not really sure how it works.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought it was an appropriate panel to do. And hopefully people will get, out of it, I don't know, a 7-string guitar. Hopefully they order a 7-string guitar.
Yeah, they'll realize that it's for them too.
Yes.
Yeah. And so we're in Arvada, California. For me, that's like 1,000 miles from home. How and why did this become sort of the epicenter of your business and this show? I mean, of all the places that you could be, you're nestled in here.
Yeah.
What's going on with all that?
The show's here because I live here.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
I think the construction of this hotel, this was just sleepy little, it was a farm town that became part of the greater Denver metro area. And in 2010, this was the only place I could afford to move to, so I moved to Arvada. And I just fell in love with it's a little town. It's like 2 streets wide, and I always had like a romantic idea in my head about, small towns. I just like community, and I like knowing everybody, and saying hi to people in the morning, and like, oh, there's the mayor, that I get that here in Arvada, even though it's just a suburb of Denver. So they build this hotel, and I'm like, okay, well, now we can have events here. It's it's a nice place. And when I put the thing out on Facebook to see if anybody wanted to come to my shop and bring a couple guitars, and it blew up into, this is turning into a full-blown festival, I came to the hotel and I'm like, I got a problem. My shop is nice, but it's not like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of guitars nice. And they really went overboard to try to help me host this event. And then a lot of the local businesses in town saw what I was trying to do and got behind it, and so they've given us use of their PR person, and they've been helping us out with advertising. And so it's a huge group effort of, it's not just me, it's the city of Arvada has been an enormous help, and this Hilton has just been fantastic.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's required to put on a guitar show, is that kind of cooperation. You can't just rent a room and ask people to show up. It wouldn't have the same,
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked. I mean, I'm from California. This isn't my backyard here,
right.
But I've been sort of tooling around, and there's a really big music community here, which I didn't know.
Yeah.
But there's open mic nights all over the place, and a lot of really great players all over the place. Are you dialed into the local community as well?
Not really. Yeah, we have an awesome local music scene, both at the, our Weekend Warrior scene is great. A lot of wonderful people playing, get together and play all the time. But we have a lot of universities with some wonderful music programs, and it's taken a long time for that to develop into a scene, but we have just an incredible jazz scene here, considering the size of the town. And it's not just that Denver is small, it's small and there's nothing next door. I describe it as an island.
Yeah.
If you take our population and the size between like Cheyenne, Wyoming down to Pueblo, Colorado, out east, a little bit west, our little population center is roughly the size and shape of like Ireland, and it's also the same distance travel to get to the next big city that's not your general population. So that usually would make a strong music scene impossible, because it's only local. You have to drive 9 hours to get to the next city.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like the East Coast where you're in the next 3 states are in 9-hour drive. So it's not isolated, but it is. And so having the university programs here are great. All the professors are wonderful. Everyone's really supportive, and it builds a jazz scene. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's really wonderful that it's here. It's sort of like a little mirage.
Yeah. Our bluegrass scene is killing too.
Yeah.
It's Colorado.
Yeah. This probably won't air until much after the festival's over.
Sure, yeah.
It turns out I'm very slow at editing, but
that's good. Do it right.
When you're looking back at it in a couple of weeks or months, how will you know if this festival was a success? What are you hoping the big takeaway is for everybody, or that you'll feel good about it?
If the guitar luthiers felt like they had a good show, then it was a good show. Otherwise, it'll have been a hell of a party. But the real purpose of this is that the luthiers, nobody sells guitars off the floor. These are custom made. They're just trying to get their brands out there and maybe meet somebody who hadn't heard of them and get them to try. That's the goal of this, is for them. So if they had a good show, I had a good show. If they had a bad show, which I don't think is possible, they're all having fun already, but in the end, it's all about the luthiers.
Yeah.
So that's how I'll gauge it, by their feedback.
Check
in a
in
couple
with them
months.
and see what that's about. So players and non-players alike, a lot of people get fixated on the guitar, and the Archtop in particular has like a rabid audience. What about the Archtop in particular? I mean, you're in this world. What is it about the Archtop that you think people really attach to?
I think it's different for every player. I don't know if I could pick one thing, because I am not. No one would ever pay to see me play guitar or hear me play guitar. See me, maybe I could fake my way through it, but it would be somebody else playing. I think it's the combination of acoustic response with electric playability, and the fact that you can put big, heavy strings on them, and hit them a little bit, but still be articulate. And chords and soloing are at an even volume, versus like a flat top where you can hammer out the chords and it's loud, but for articulate soloing it's not quite there. And,
I'd never thought about that.
I think that's the appeal for, there's a Venn diagram in there of who likes archtops and why, but I think that's probably a pretty big part of it for most. They're also really cool looking.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
But
do cool guitars sound better?
Cool guitars definitely make me sound better, because it's distracting from my playing. But some, a lot of like recordings, the guitar on that, a lot of that is an ES 175, I think. I'm not an expert, but that tone is the Archtop tone, and it's getting a little more like repopularized in folk music, because it's got a unique, specific sound, and that's kind of, I really just want more people to play them because they're wonderful instruments.
Yeah, I don't think they've reached their limit either. I think there's a lot more that we're going to see done on Archtop guitars.
So much more.
Yeah, I mean, there's already so much that's being done and been done, but I think there's more. I don't think we've hit the top.
Yeah, I know I can share this. We just did a little thing with Premier Guitar, and it was an ad for the Archtop Festival, and I thought I'd take their articles that they've done that were about Archtop guitar, which again I didn't think was very much of their audience. I thought it was a very small percentage of their audience. But I'm just trying to get as many people here as possible, so I'll take a stab at it. So I had them put together this newsletter of all their Archtop related articles with an ad for the Archtop Festival, and they sent it out as an e-blast, and their list size is a couple 100,000 people. They had a 44% open rate.
Really?
Which is mind-bogglingly high. Your average, like a good open rate on a newsletter is like 21-22%. You're kicking ass. 44%. So 75,000 of Premier Guitars, 200,000 person mailing list, which is not a lot of jazz guitar players. It's just a lot of all-around solid guitar enthusiasts. Almost half of them opened the newsletter about Archtop guitars. So it made me like really feel good that there's a lot of people out there who are, this is an interesting, like, yeah, they're cool, but a lot of people think of them as like, a rockabilly guitar or only a jazz guitar, or,
not a really responsive guitar that'll do whatever you want.
Exactly, and have never played anything except maybe, a very cheap guitar that just happened to have F-holes in it. But that's not really what the Archtop's all about. And in fact, Ken Parker is here with his Archtops, which are more expensive than both of my cars put together. But they are acoustic instruments. They are not jazz guitars. They are not country. They're their own thing, and they're amazing. And if you don't, until you play one, you just don't get it. It's nothing like It's nothing like a cheap 335 knockoff that's got a solid block down the middle. That's really not an acoustic guitar at all. These are acoustic instruments, and that's why we have a show about them. We want to get people to try them, especially acoustic guitar players that have only ever played flat tops. Like, yeah, pick this up, see what you think. Maybe find your voice there.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people will pick them up and find their minds morphing a little bit because they just respond differently.
Right. Oh yeah. And that's the thing about music is there's the mind-body instrument connection. If you're not feeling it back from the instrument, you're fighting it.
Yeah. Who wants to fight an instrument?
Me. I'm like, I sumo wrestle my guitar. It wins every time.
What are you most excited about right now in the archtop world? What are the innovations or the sounds or the people that you're just really keyed in on? You probably can't answer that because you have to make a whole lot of people feel equally special.
There's some secret something that he won't tell me about. Bruce Foreman claims he's dropping some super secret bomb at his performance on Saturday, which will have happened by the time you air this. So maybe that's the big thing. I don't even know what it is. So we'll see.
I'll have to track him down and find out.
He said Saturday night his thing. He's going to introduce this. I don't know. He said it'll blow everybody's mind. Bruce isn't one for, he's an entertainer, but he's not one for hyperbole in that regard. So we'll see. I'm excited for everybody to get together because this is a group that was pre-COVID was accustomed to meeting 2 or 3 times a year, and it really is a community. And I'm not really a part of it. I'm the token amp guy at the guitar show, which is fine. I like that job. But that community, seeing them get together is just amazing. So that's kind of that's the big spark, for the weekend. And I like seeing. The nice thing about being in Colorado is the bi-coastal.
A lot of people came a long distance to get here, and it's central, so you're getting both.
We have a lot of people from both coasts, so and a lot of those guys and women just don't get to play together. They know who each other are. Maybe they went to the same university. Maybe they might have done a camp together or something. But it's pretty rare to get that many people from that many different places in one place at one time.
I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's going to be a hoot. So this show is really about the magic of the guitar and why people fall in love with it and why maybe they make terrible decisions chasing it. I don't know. Maybe as a listener or a player, is there a magic moment that you can tell me about where you realize something special was really happening?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, I'm 46, so it was the late 80s big hair guitar solo on stage. I'm like, that's awesome. I think that's a pretty shared experience. I got my first guitar in 7th grade and just have been again, not a professional player, but I just love what you can do with it. It's the possibilities are infinite.
Yeah, well, for people that are out there, checking you out and learning about you, what's the best place? I assume a website, best place to learn about your company and the show. And
HenriksenAmplifiers.com is definitely that's our central information distribution point. The festival separately is archtopfestival.com. We will be doing this in 23, 24, 25. I think I actually have a 5-year contract with the hotel in the works. So,
oh wow.
Yeah, again, the town has invested heavily in time and resources they want a signature event. They want an international event here. And they picked me. And I'm like, all right. I just want to make guitar amps. I do enjoy this. I'm a extroverted social person. So for me, COVID was a horrible nightmare. Yeah, I'm just stuck at home. Yeah, I want to get out and talk to people, and
well, you're gonna have a chance to talk to a lot of folks.
Yeah, I haven't lost my voice yet, but it is only Thursday.
Yeah, give it time.
Yeah, I think by Monday. We'll see.
Well, man, thanks for making some time to have a little interview with me, and I'm really looking forward to the show and
awesome.
Talking to as many people as I can.
Wonderful.
And just thanks for thanks for having this be available, and your amps sound
Oh, well, thank you.
fantastic.
Thanks.
And that's just not a plug. It's just I played them and I think they're damn good.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. Are we recording? Because this is a hilarious story. Yeah. So I was growing the beard out and just letting it go. Like, let's see how far I can take this. And the Christmas right before this NAMM show, where it was getting out of hand, like I had to oil it, or else it was like all over the place. And I take my daughter to see Santa, and the Santa guy comes up to me after he's done. He's like, "That's a really great beard. Have you ever thought of putting on the suit?" And I was like, "That's what you call it?" That's a thing, putting on the suit. Like there's a club of Santas and that's what they call it, putting on the suit. I shaved after that.